All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dunk Talk, episode 15. My name is Dylan Haugen. I'm a dunker from Wisconsin. I'm from Minnesota. I was thinking about Hunter for a second, but yeah, Hunter, co-host here, introduce himself, and we'll get to our guest of the day.
Yeah, so guys, I'm Hunter Castona, 6'1" from Wisconsin. I'm the co-host here, and obviously we have our special guest Jordan here. So, if Jordan, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
For sure. Hey, I'm Jordan. I'm 23 years old, dunker from LA. Just moved back home after spending some time up in the Bay Area in Northern California. So yeah, out in LA for a while now, where the dunk scene seems to be popping.
For sure, yeah. I definitely been wanting to go out to LA, get some sessions and a
It's
bunch
a
of
great spot to be. Yeah.
yeah, tons of guys up there, bro.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess just to start off, we'll go all the way back to like when you first started dunking, just when you were a kid. What like sports did you play? Did you know about professional dunking? What were some inspirations? How'd you get started?
Yeah. So growing up, I played basketball, I played soccer, I played baseball. Basketball was always my thing though. Like I remember being a kid going to my soccer games and, before the games would start, I'd be on the basketball courts right next door playing basketball up until the moment the soccer game started. Like basketball was always just my thing. Um, and I could always jump kind of higher than most people. I wasn't elite, but like I was able to out jump guys who were taller than me. Um, and growing up, I would like set up pillows, I would stack pillows, jump over pillows, I would jump over tables, just things that a lot of us dunkers did growing up, jump and touch
Yeah,
doorways. Um, and so that kind of, that stayed up until like middle school, and then I ditched the other sports and stuck with basketball. In high school, my high school was super competitive basketball school, one of the top in the state, send out D1 guys like every year. And so my first year, my freshman year of high school, I had really bad jumper's knee, which at the time I didn't know it was jumper's knee. Didn't play. Sophomore year I played, junior year I played, never played varsity though. Senior year, jumper's knee came back really bad, so I skipped senior year. But basketball was, it was my thing, and I was try at the time like I had this dream of going pro. Um, and so after my senior year, I said like I took the time to train to really set myself up for the future. So I took a gap year actually and did no school. In that time, I trained 3 times a day for the whole year, and ended up going to community college to play. Had a interesting experience there to say the least. It was a lot of politics involved. It was a bad season. Ended up kind of ruining my love for basketball. And so I just decided I was going to go all in on jumping, on dunking. At that time, I was 21. This was 2022. So I was 21 at that time. I probably had like a 38-inch vert. I could hit basic dunks off 1 foot, off 2 feet. I could, hit a basic two-hand dunk. Nothing special at all. Um, so I was like, honestly, I'm gonna go back to my roots, which is just jumping, period. Um, so I went all in on jumping. Throughout this time, I was super interested in pushing human performance, pushing myself to my limit. So I was kind of studying along the way, studying strength and conditioning from like the age of 16 probably. And the first few years of that were rough. I was following, it's social media how it is. People can post whatever, it
yeah,
doesn't matter if you're qualified. So I was following a lot of people I shouldn't have been following. But after a few years of that, I kind of figured out who the right people are to learn from. And I ended up stacking knowledge to the point where by the time I was done with basketball in 2022, I knew exactly what I was doing. So I created a program for myself, and that program, in the last 2 years has taken me from like high 30s to I just tested 45 at dunk camp. So
yeah, bro. It's just it's been crazy to see. I remember the first time I saw you. I actually found you kind of late because I mean you've been underrated for a minute now,
thank
but
you.
yeah, bro. When I first saw you, I was like, this dude jumps insanely high, and then after after that, obviously, you just started to add more and more of the bag. So it's been really cool to see for sure too.
Appreciate that.
So when you were when you were like a kid, did you do any low rims or anything, or was it really just like kind of just jumping randomly?
Yeah, bro. That's one of my biggest regrets. I wish I low rimmed more because now I have the vert. I don't have the skill. It's like it's not there. And that's one of my goals, by dunk camp next year. Like I want to push my vert a little bit higher. Maybe 46. But like this next year for me, I need to get the skill up because I didn't low rim, I'm lacking there. So that's definitely one of the biggest regrets I have for
Yeah.
sure. Taking advantage of the time when I wasn't as prone to overuse injuries, when I
Hmm.
was 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. I wish, but no.
Yeah,
No.
bro. Me and Hunter are the opposite.
I know.
Literally.
All the hand speed, but no bounce. Well, I
Bro, now
mean,
you guys have
Well,
bounce too,
we,
bro.
we we got we got some bounce now, but I mean, a lot more people
yeah.
have bounce, but no hand
I
speed.
think
But
Yeah.
it's a common theme, bro. It's like either you got insane hands and like not the craziest vertical or the opposite. And I
Yeah.
think that's what makes guys like truly elite. Like obviously Kilgan and Isaiah, 1 foot God, all those guys, they just have like perfect hand speed and insane bounce. So yeah, I mean that's I mean a huge part of this podcast is to kind of like have people like learn from our journeys, obviously. So
For
that
sure.
is something that I've just been pushing this entire time is like, look at this guy. He has a 48, 45-inch vert and he wishes he did this. So
Yeah.
listen to him. It's
100%.
yeah.
crazy.
So with you
Yeah.
like growing up, obviously you were a big basketball guy, so I'm guessing you always wanted to try dunking, or like whenever you had the chance, you would always try touching rim, touching net, backboard, whatever it was. So I know that's probably a big thing that you had was like the next goal was net, backboard, rim, whatever.
Yeah.
So when did you actually get your first dunk down? What age?
Yeah, man, I was late. I was really late. Like that's why you, Dylan, you scare me. Your potential scares me. Like it freaks me out because I got my first dunk probably on like a 9-10 outdoor hoop when I was like late junior in high school, maybe. And then like late into my junior year, maybe even the summer going into senior year. And then I didn't dunk again for a minute. I don't know how long it was, but it was a while. Um, I don't even know if I dunked again at all in high school. It might have been after graduating high school that I dunked again.
Yeah,
Um, super, super late. I remember being like a sophomore in high school, freshman in high school, and like I could barely touch the backboard. Like I just didn't have that much bounce. So
I mean, that's crazy progress though. I mean, sophomore year barely touching backboard, and then a couple years later you have a 45-inch vert. Like that's
yeah,
pretty crazy to hear.
yeah.
thank you. Yeah,
So
it's been a process.
Between sophomore and junior, you went from like barely touching backboard to dunking. What would you
Yeah.
say the biggest things that happened during that time were you training differently or was it just kind of just maturing more?
Yeah, I think honestly at that point that, whatever it was, like 5, 6 inch difference came down to puberty. I was
Bro,
kind
yeah.
of late. I was a late bloomer too. Like when I was a freshman in high school, I was like 5'4". I like sounded like a child. I was a kid. And so I think it came down to like, you
Yeah.
know, hitting puberty. I was strength training. I started strength training when I was like 13. So like, I was lifting, I was getting stronger. And for, an athlete who's new to everything, I mean, they could look at a weight and get stronger. And so like
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
I was getting a little bit stronger and jumping a little bit, and that combination I think was enough plus puberty to,
Yeah.
get that transformation.
Yeah. I think a lot of people underestimate like what puberty can do in jump training. A lot of people, I mean, like you said, like a lot of people look at me and they're like, oh, like this dude's scary. He has like insane potential. But at the same time, I just developed way sooner than most people
Mhm.
do. Like the fact
Yeah.
that I'm even capable of having a 41-inch vert at 16 should tell you that like I just developed really early. So like by 13, I'd say I was like decently developed. Like that's when I got my first dunk. And so, but it really shows you like that hunters, whatever. But
I'm still in disbelief by that.
yeah,
It still blows my
How
mind to
tall were
this
you
day
at
that
13 to get your first dunk?
5'8".
dude,
Bro,
like
But
that's
anyways, it's just like I was just like way more developed than most kids that age. Like even if you like couldn't tell like even just like your muscles and stuff, I feel like it developed at different ages. So yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people underestimate it. Like I have kids that I know that I'm like, or even my brother, for example. Like my brother is 14 now, and he's like can just barely touch the backboard, and he's like 5'5", and he's like, sometimes he'll be like, oh my gosh, like I'm doing all these things, and like I'm not jumping like you did at your age, obviously, and like we're literally brothers. So you'd think that it would be the same, but I'm just like, bro, just looking at you, I can tell that like we were not the same at
Yeah.
your age, at the same age. And so it's like I think a lot of people underestimate like if we were the same, like developed, then he would probably be doing the same thing. But yeah, I mean, I also just jumped a ton when I was young, so that's obviously another part of it,
Yeah, that
which
helps a lot.
I think a lot of us did. But yeah, so in high school, you're just kind of like barely dunking here and there. Um, During that gap year, did you focus on your vertical at all, or was it mostly just basketball stuff?
Yeah, no, it was all basketball. It was typically it would be, I didn't know like strength and conditioning to the extent that I do now, so I would have done things a little
Yeah,
different. But it was one on-court session, at least one on-court session, one weight room session. I'd throw in some ball handling in there in the garage, and then I would do one injury prevention session, which looking back, that wasn't it, but like at that time, that's what I did.
yeah,
And so it was like a full-time job. It was like, workout. I took the Kobe route where it was like workout, rest a couple hours, workout again, rest a couple hours, workout, and just repeat every single day. I mean, I got better, but it was all basketball. It was not dunking at
yeah,
all. And during that season, my vert went down a lot. I said there was a lot. It was a interesting season, and we were practicing like 4 hours a day. So by the end of it, my shins were killing me, my knees hurt, I'd have random injuries popping up. So by the end of the season, I don't think I could dunk anymore, just because of how beat
crazy,
up.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, taking that time afterwards was nice to. That's when I realized like I really love dunking because I
yeah.
quit basketball. I wanted to keep jumping, and I realized like this is way better than basketball ever was.
Yeah. I mean, I would get into like, um, your season and stuff, but it just sounds like they just overworked you a ton. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean we can get
not
into it
really
if you want.
much, not really too much that I would like, say that you need to talk about to change that. But what would you, if you were to go back to that gap year, like what would you change in that training with what you know now?
Yeah, I mean, so training specifically for basketball.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the injury prevention stuff, like you can't necessarily prevent injuries. You can
What were
reduce the
you,
likelihood of them.
what were you doing like
So
that you
it's
call
hard to
injury prevention?
fully, yeah, it's hard to fully remember. Um, actually have it written down. I've written down every single workout I've done since 2017 in journals. So they're on
That
paper.
is crazy.
They're like right behind me actually. So I have everything in books, which I still do to this day because I think super easy way to track your progress.
For
Like for
sure.
example, I hit my first East Day in November 2023, and I felt like I was flying back then. I was able to look back and know exactly what training I was doing and why I was jumping so high. So I still do that to this day. I write down every workout I do, every rep, every set, every exercise. Um, but I think the injury prevention stuff it wasn't the worst thing ever. I was doing ISOs, which I don't even think that many people were like put onto ISOs back in 2021.
I
Um,
doubt it. Yeah.
so I was doing ISOs for my patellar tendon. I was doing them for my Achilles. I work on some like hip internal and external rotation. I work on some like proprioception, balance work. Some foot strengthening, which was kind of weird. I wouldn't do that now. At this point, what I do differently now is I still train. Obviously, the goal is not to get hurt, so I'm trying to do things that will help me reduce the likelihood of getting hurt. Um, but I bleed that stuff into my strength training. I don't have a dedicated session for it at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and strength training itself will do that for you as well. But I think I would have spent less time focusing on those little things and worked on generally just getting stronger and maybe bleed some of that stuff into my workouts. It's like now I bleed that stuff into my warm up. Um, I think that's the best approach in my opinion from what I've experienced and from the athletes that I train is we'll bleed that stuff into their warm up, but we won't take an hour to work on that by itself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely doing like a little bit or just like, the right amount every single day is way better than doing just like a ton one day a week or
Yeah.
I guess you said you were doing it every day though, didn't you?
Yeah, I was doing the injury prevention stuff. I would schedule in like 2 days a week, 3 days a week.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a lot. And at this point, like I know now managing your load. I know load management in the basketball community is like some terrible term that everybody hates because of the NBA. But managing your load is, for me at least, has been insane. Like I went from once I learned how to do that, I went from struggling with a lot of knee pain, jumpers knee would flare up all the time, to now I know how to properly manage my load, and I don't jumpers knee is not an issue anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess during your college season, like what would you say like was the problem besides just obviously being like insanely overworked? And then how would you do it like differently if you were coaching, obviously.
Yeah, there were a lot of politics involved, which is typical with basketball to an extent.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, like I said, insanely overworked. I think the culture was just not good. I don't think that was only on the coaches. I think that was on the players as well. We had one incident late in the season where half my team stole a golf cart from the school and they were chased by the cops, like around the city. Like it was insane. And so, that I was one of the guys who it was during like peak COVID. So I was there from day one, and I went like 18 months of the workouts without actually us having a season yet. So season came around. I was like the coach's first athlete. He had just transferred there as the coach as well. And it was because of the politics. I spent a lot of time on the bench, which was fine. Looking back, was somewhat deserved. Um, but when I would go in, I would kind of show out, and especially when those guys got suspended for stealing that golf cart. We had like 5 guys on the roster available to play, so I played a lot that game. I showed out, and then just went back to the bench the next game. So it was a lot of like predetermined decision making that there was nothing you could do to
Yeah.
change. But by the end of the season, I was at this point, season ended in like March. By February, I knew I was done with basketball. I just knew that was it. I didn't want to play anymore. Um, and I was getting ready to transfer schools. At that point, I had committed to transferring schools up in Northern California. But I wasn't going to go as an athlete. It was just going to be as a student. And so I was gone. Like I just wasn't there anymore because, like I said, I knew I was done playing, which was interesting because I ended up playing better than I ever had once I stopped caring. And I think there's something to that. Um, but the end of the season, coach calls me in his office at some point, and I was a little confused. And he tells me, "Yo, you got something coming your way." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he wouldn't elaborate. Um, and so, a week goes by, and I get an email from the school, and they were like, "Hey, Jordan, we've actually named you the Male Scholar Athlete of the Year." And I was really confused because I'm like, "How are you going to name a bench warmer the Male Scholar Athlete of the Year?" It just felt weird, it felt wrong.
Yeah, it's
And that's what
that's so
that point
weird.
there is like. It was just weird. It was like everything was just weird about that season. Um, and I mean, it worked out the way it was supposed to because I plan on going a lot further in dunking than I would have in basketball. Um, but definitely an interesting season. I think that's not too uncommon. Probably not just basketball, probably with sports in general. I think that's
Yeah, a lot of politics usually pop up with a lot of different people's sports and coaches and stuff.
yeah,
But I
Yeah,
mean,
for
I kind of
sure.
had a similar experience in high school. That's why I stopped playing my senior year. I won't get into it, but that's basically how I found out about dunking. So I'm very glad that I actually didn't play my senior year because otherwise I would have found out about like I knew about dunking, but like till where I started training and stuff, I wouldn't have even been close to doing. I would have went probably to college for basketball, but
yeah,
that's definitely a big common thing I think with a lot of people is politics, and the coach already has predetermined like players that are going to play regardless of what happens. And obviously, a lot of people have their favorites and stuff, so it's like you can't change that, which sucks. But I mean, that's where you find most of your actual like where your actual passion's at when you're doing stuff like
Yeah,
that
that's when you
because
figure out
like
if you love it or not.
yeah.
exactly because they kind of either ruin it for you or I mean you could still love it being a bench warmer, but I mean half the time I don't think that's the case. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
um but like obviously in me and Jordan's case we found out dunking was our passion, and
Mm,
obviously I think we're going to be way better at dunking than basketball. Obviously
yes.
I've never seen you play basketball before, but just from seeing your last couple of months even with dunking I can see a huge progression and like potential in your dunking. So
Thank you.
but
No, yeah, I actually ended up making, or so I transferred. This was 2022 that I transferred schools right after that season ended. I ended up deciding at this new school, which was a division, I think my school was a Division II college. I ended up deciding I'm actually going to come back and play again. So I started training again like crazy for like 3 months. Um, and then I ended up realizing basically exactly what you just said. I ended up thinking to myself, like, okay, do I want to spend my senior year of college playing basketball, even though I know I'm not going to go pro? Or do I want to focus on dunking, have fun again, continue training? Because training for basketball and training for dunking are two very different things. Um, so I ended up cutting the comeback off short and fully that's when I fully locked in on dunking. So
I think that
Yeah,
was a good decision
I agree. Yeah,
from seeing what you've done so far, especially when I saw you at camp. So obviously we'll get into that a little bit
yeah,
later, but kind of want to go back to growing up more. So, like when you were growing up, did you watch? I'm guessing you probably did, but did you watch any of the NBA dunk contests? Did you watch any dunk academics? Any other dunkers that you knew of back then? Like, what were you watching back then, and like, who's your inspiration for from like today now?
for sure. So ironically, I don't know if I don't know like how this really worked out, but I live in LA. It's a Lakers town out here. But in 2011, I fell in love with the Clippers, and I think it was because of Lob City. I think it was because of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan.
don't
That
blame
was
you.
Yeah, it was one of the most fun teams in my opinion in NBA history. Um, and
Jamal
so I
Crawford
think,
too.
oh yeah, it was an insane team. It just highlights every other possession. And so dunk that was all dunking. Like, and I'm one of those fans who I have them tatted on me. Like I have a Clipper tattoo. I'm die hard. Um, and so I watch 82 games and the playoffs. So I was watching a lot of dunking with them. And then, obviously the dunk contest for all of us, that's the best part of All-Star Weekend by far. So I get hyped for those. And then Dunkademics and Team Flight Brothers and all them. I found out about that stuff a little later. I was probably later in high school is when it was when I really found out about all that stuff. The YouTube and social media side of dunking, aside from just the NBA. And that's kind of when I was put on to like the idea of professional dunking as well. Um, there was that show on TNT, I think, like with Shaq and them as the judges. I forgot what it was called. Is that
Dunk
called like
King,
Yeah, Dunk King.
Dunk King.
um that was like the first time I was put on to all the pros for real. And from there I started watching all of them. I started watching Dunkademics and you know, that's when everything took off. I think Dunkademics for me was the coolest follow I've had on Instagram so far. Like when he followed me on Instagram, that was an insane moment because that's just an account growing up from like high school
Yeah,
on. So that
Yeah,
was
for sure.
so fun to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even now, like that I've like even now that I have like all these like pro dunkers that have like followed me just because of like dunk camp, basically, it's
Yeah.
still so cool when just like one that I've like grown up watching just randomly follows me back.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
it's
oh my
different.
gosh,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
crazy, bro.
For
But
sure.
yeah. So after you decided to be done with basketball and you decided to go all in on dunking, like what was your plan to, kind of like get your vertical up, get your dunking good? Like what was your training like when you first started that?
Yeah. So I think, a little bit ago we were talking about how I was more focused on jumping high and you guys were more focused on like the skill of dunking. Um, I think that shows to an extent with, I feel like strength and conditioning coaches, which that's what I do. I work as a strength and conditioning coach. I think strength and conditioning coaches tend to be more focused on like the outputs and like jumping high specifically.
Yeah.
Whereas like the purists, like I feel like you guys are purists. You guys like love dunking itself and the skill of it. And so for me, for a long time, it was I'm just gonna focus on jumping higher, and I'll figure out the dunking stuff later. And so with that, my training, all of a sudden I remove basketball. I have all this time and energy and like resources available to me to train. And so I kind of messed around with some different frameworks and philosophies and principles within my training program. When I finished that my second year of college, which was the end of my junior college season. Um, and I think once I committed to periodizing my training properly, and really setting a proper plan and progression to follow throughout the course of the year, that's when my gains like took off, and I added probably from then to now like 7 inches on my vert. Um, I have different phases of training. Right now I'm in a phase with a strength emphasis. So like post dunk camp, I decided to come home and write the next 6 months of training, and then I'll write the next 6 months after that. I'm trying to like peak next year for dunk camp, really lock in and be way better. Um, so I go through these different phases with different emphasis during each phase, which is fairly it's a fairly common way to periodize your training. Um, I had I think it was my mentor actually who told me, like, you imagine different qualities as like burners on a stove. So like right now I've turned the burner all the way up on the strength, and I've kind of turned everything else to a simmer so I can really hammer away at getting strong. And then you kind of turn and adjust those burners on the stove depending on what qualities you want to improve. Um, and so that's kind of how I've managed my training for the last couple years. And my principles and ideas and beliefs within each training cycle and each training day have changed for sure. I'm always going back and making edits when I've learned new things or had new ideas. Um, but for the most part, it's been that. And then the way I structure my training day to day is, it's like putting a puzzle together. It's like taking all these puzzle pieces and finding what fits where and how it fits well and how it fits best. Um, and I mean, we're all like constantly pursuing knowledge. We're constantly pursuing growth. And so I'm constantly learning more and making adjustments, but it's been pretty standard in that I'll go through a strength phase or a strength emphasis, and then I'll move over to like a more power emphasis, where that used to be primarily hammering away at variations of hex bar jumps. And that's when I would actually jump my highest. That's when I said back last November when I hit my first East Bay, I was jumping super high. I was in the middle of a power phase. I tend to respond really well to power phases, which some coaches don't believe are very necessary. I'm not going to name names, and I don't think that's right or wrong, but some coaches don't believe in that. For me, I know that's where I feel best, so I'm never going to remove that from my training. After that power phase, I'll go into a more elastic cycle, where I'm hammering away at different plyos, messing with shorter ground contact times. Um, and then I'll move into a phase, which I don't know who else does this. I don't know where I thought of this. I'm sure there's others who do it, but I move into a phase where I turn, I talked about the burners on the stove representing different, qualities. I turn all the burners all the way down to like a simmer. So I'm maintaining strength and power and my elasticity, and I'm focusing on dunking. And that's my phase to like really improve the skill of dunking. I up my volume. For me, I can't jump more than once a week, but in that one session a week, I'll do more max jumps, and I really turn that up. And then after that, I go back to the beginning, and I'll start with strength again. And so I'll probably run 2 cycles of that over the course of the next year until next dunk camp. But for me, that's worked very well for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool, bro. Go ahead, Hunter.
So going along like with your training and stuff, because obviously you've been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah.
First question I would say is, were you ever on a jumping program?
Um, I actually was coached by John Evans. I don't even know if THP was a thing yet at that time. I don't know if he was working with Isaiah yet. It was a long time ago, and it was one of my jumpers, and he was super bad. I didn't know how to handle it on my own yet. Um, I remember working with John. I remember learning a lot from him. I think that lasted probably about 2 months. Um, I learned a lot from him, and I think that actually set the foundation for me in terms of being able to then, learn to manage it on my own. Um, so I worked with John. That wasn't really, like I said, that wasn't really in terms of training to jump higher. That was more like getting back to being healthy. Other than that, no, I never did any jump programs.
Okay.
I watched a lot of people who on like YouTube and stuff who would give out free information. And back when I didn't know that a lot of information isn't good information, I would follow everything I heard. Um, but I really, other than that 2 month stint with John, I didn't really do much.
Yeah.
Nice. I didn't even know that you even talked to John before, so that's actually kind of cool that
Yeah.
you learned a lot from him. And that's kind of how you got your foundation and stuff. But then alongside with your training again, when did you start having like designated dunk sessions and jump sessions? Like, were you always doing that when you were training, or did you kind of just only focus on the strength stuff? Like when did you actually start having like actual dunk
Yeah.
sessions?
I was gonna ask that as well because I know you talked a lot about like spending time focusing on different things. So was there any points where you like didn't jump at all and just focused on like strength and power, or were you always pretty good
Yeah,
about
I
that?
mean, when I was training for basketball when I was younger, through high school and even through my junior college season, um, one of the biggest mistakes I made was hammering away in the weight room, and doing way too much. And so I would spend all my time in the weight room and on the court, and I'd never dunk. That just wasn't a priority for me. If I was gonna try to dunk, it'd be like in practice or something. Um, and it really wasn't until towards the time that I decided to quit basketball in 2022 that I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go." This at the time it was like I'm gonna go to the park. I didn't even have indoor courts. I was gonna go to the park and I was just gonna jump. And so it was really late. I was really late to the party in terms of like setting aside designated sessions to dunk. It was, yeah, I mean, it's probably only been 2.5 years since I started doing that, which is probably also why my skill as a dunker is less developed than I'd like it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So when you first started training and you're implementing these jump sessions, how has that changed over time? Like since then, what would you change looking back
Um,
now?
yeah, I didn't jump enough. I took that mindset of hammering away in the weight room that I used to have for basketball, and I did it with dunking too. And I've kind of learned to keep the main thing, which is jumping. So my dunk sessions now are my priority. If I'm gonna miss a session during the week for whatever reason, it is not gonna be my dunk session unless
Yeah.
something terrible happens. This week I'm not gonna be able to dunk because I just hurt my back, and that kills me because that's like a wasted week in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, I dunk keep the main thing the main thing. I wish I knew that sooner. I wish I implemented that sooner. Um, but now my set like because of that, my sessions are they lead right into my dunk sessions. So at the beginning of the week are my more intense sessions. For me, I end the week with a dunk session, so that's my final,
Yeah, same.
training stimulus of the week. Um, I begin the week with different exercises and variations of exercises that are going to be a little harder on the knees, and then I kind of back off as the week progresses. So my final lift is is a lot easier than these so that I have the juice to go dunk 2 days later. So I think, yeah, like I said, keep the main thing was huge for me. And I think once I really realized that and implemented that, I started jumping a little bit higher. Um, I definitely would get that message out to anybody who had that same mindset as me, because it's kind
Yeah,
of a terrible mindset to have as an athlete. Like, unless you're a
yeah,
power, there's no reason to be in the weight room as much as I was.
yeah. I'd say probably me and Dylan are kind of the opposite. We did a lot of dunking early on and like no weight room.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened with me. I was very late to the weight room. Like I did like my workouts with my basketball team, but we all know those are nothing. That's
Yeah.
like barely doing anything. And so I got in the weight room like basically 2 years ago. I actually fell in love with it. So like I love lifting now, but before it was like a hassle to go lift. I just wanted to go dunk. Um, so I'm glad that I actually found the love for it because that's where I saw a huge amount of my progress was in the weight room.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, yeah, I think me and Dylan are both kind of like the opposite of what you were. You were
Uh,
more like strength. I mean, for the most
kind of.
part, for you, I mean, you were
I
dunking pretty
actually,
early on too. But
actually, I haven't really talked about this much, but I actually probably started lifting when I was like 11 or 12. I just didn't do as much as I wish I would have. Like, I used to do this thing. It was like a kind of like a personal trainer. It was like a small group training, and we just did like a lot of like small stuff. Basically, it was mostly like dumbbell workouts and whatever. And then slowly that progressed. So by the time I was 13, I was actually doing like one-on-one stuff for like Olympic lifting, like mostly just power cleans, and then learning how to do squats and stuff. But the problem with it, and looking back, like this is something I wish that I really would have done. It was only like a few days a week, first of all. And again, like I said, I was pretty developed by the time I was like 13. So I probably could have actually been like doing a decent amount of lifting when I was 13. I would have been a lot stronger now with a lot more experience. So, I mean, I did lift, but it was like very on and off because it was like only like a summer thing. So it was like only for a few months, only a few days a week. And then, yeah, I didn't do enough. And so like even now, like I'm still not a I mean, not like a beginner in the weight room, but like just not. I'm not like as advanced as you, obviously, yet. Like I still, my technique for everything is not perfect. Actually, surprisingly, my power clean technique is pretty good, but my squat technique needs work for sure. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it sucks. So, yeah, I mean, I did do it, but it just wasn't as much as I really wish I would have. I definitely once I like the older I've gotten, the more like good training I guess I've done. But it's it wasn't really good until like October, to be honest. So it's been not very long
Yeah.
since I've actually been on good training. Shout out jump backs, obviously. But yeah, before that I just was really on and off with everything. So
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I was. I was doing more functional stuff. Wasn't I didn't get in.
yeah,
So when I say
exactly.
lifting, I mean like more of like the Olympic and actual strength training wise. Otherwise, I was doing a lot of like what you were saying, dumbbell work, injury prevention, and like actual like sports related training, not really like the powerlifting type stuff. So that's kind of what I meant by not like lifting early on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I did stuff in the weight room, but it just wasn't to the like extent that I'm doing now. And I've
Yeah.
obviously fallen in love with that type of training. So, um, but I mean, yeah, it's just dunking skill. People don't realize, but dunking skill is like a huge thing that people don't realize is like dunking skill and basketball skill are two completely separate things. Like there are some people that can play basketball and just dunk because they've just been doing it for a while, um, but like I like Jordan, he's like my skill isn't as good as us because we've done it for a little bit longer. And that's obviously something that he wants to
Yeah.
train more. So, but it's
I think we
just
can make
people don't realize that as much.
a point off that definitely. Jordan, what's your reach by the way?
7'10"
Okay,
inches,
so
7'10".
yours is half an inch lower than mine. What is your so I assume you're oh my goodness, your what was your touch then?
I dunk camp
Max touch?
11'7".
11.7. Okay.
That's pretty
So yeah,
crazy.
like bro, you're touching 11.7 and I think I got my first East Bay. Hunter, what do you think I was touching at that point? 11.1,
It's so hard.
11.2?
It's so hard to tell, but I'd say, yeah. I'd say 11. Yeah, I would say in between that 11-1, 11-2,
Yeah,
probably.
11.1, 11.2 at East Bay. So it's like again, yeah, like if Jordan would have just lowered him when he was a kid, bro, he'd be so so insane
Oh,
right now.
no, that's
So
the thing. Like that's a great point because for me, my first East Bay, like I said, in November, and I was probably touching 11'5", eleven
yeah,
Yeah,
six.
that's
But like it just shows how important skill is. Like
yeah,
I could have hit it way earlier if if I had your level of
but
skill.
obviously, the good thing is that you're touching 11.7. So now it'll be a lot
yeah,
easier to get consistent with it. So
that's
yeah,
true.
you get a lot more room for error. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
100%.
So
Yeah, we got a minute
obviously,
left, so you
okay.
wanna,
Yeah, we're gonna stop this and I'll resend you guys the link real quick, all right?
yeah.
All right. I know we already kind of talked a little bit about your dunk camp experience this year, but I just want to know what was like your first time hearing about dunk camp and like what did you think about it and what made you decide to end up going this year?
I think honestly, I first heard about it from like honestly, it might have been one of your YouTube videos. Someone posted on YouTube, and um, that's what initially like put me onto dunk camp. And I wanted to go last year. I just didn't make it happen. Um, so this year I was for sure gonna make it happen. Um, and it was really fun. Like everybody says, it's the best week of their
For
year.
sure, yeah.
It's definitely up there for sure. It's just being with everybody. I feel like I've noticed the first thing I noticed is I started my like dunk account on Instagram, like kind of posting on there almost exactly a year ago, like a year ago as of like last week. And as soon as I started, I noticed how like tight knit the dunk community is. Like everybody just supports each other, which is not normal in sports. Um,
No, that's
and
like I think we can stop there for a second because
yeah,
that is a huge difference from basketball that I've noticed.
yeah,
Like every time that I get really into basketball, and actually you said it earlier, you said that something like the less you care about basketball, like the better you perform, kind of.
Yeah.
I think that I've experienced that quite a bit in basketball. Like I've gone through periods where I'm doing, like you said, not to the extent that you said, because I didn't really have the time, but like training super hard in basketball, like giving like all my time and energy and just like thinking about it all the time, and then go out and not perform well. And then it's just like, just it's really draining. And obviously dunking can be kind of the same, except the difference with dunking that I feel like I tend to see is that like if I have a bad session or whatever, the community is just so supportive that it doesn't really matter. There's always next week. For basketball, I've just had it's just not always positive. I
Yeah.
mean, I have obviously have good teammates. Obviously, I've had some teammates that I have struggled with, but overall, like I think that there's just a lot less pride in dunking. And we mentioned it. I don't remember who we were talking to, Hunter, but I said that
Justin.
I think, yeah, it was Justin. I think the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons, is that we all want dunking to be a sport, and dunking cannot be a sport if only one person is good. So like we kind of all want each other to be good to grow it more. So
100%.
yeah,
100%.
Well, that, and then we all want to, like you said, we want everybody to perform at their best, but we're also so competitive as well that has that like competitive edge as well without like really like being like, I guess, cocky, if you will. Like we're all wanting to compete against each other, obviously, like the dunk contest we had, but even like when I see somebody hit a new dunk, I'm like, oh, and that I haven't hit before, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work my butt off to try hitting that now because I want to be up their level now. So it kind of gives us like more confidence to try new things and um just basically go out there and perform better than we were last week. So
yeah,
I think there's that competitive edge as well that also makes dunking so fun and actually brings the
yeah.
community even closer, I feel like. But
I
yeah, it's
like
just the community is awesome.
I like what you said about like hitting a new dunk too. Like the thing about dunking that's very different from basketball is like just straight competition. Like you can't really like always aim for the next thing. You're just kind of trying to get better, like in general. Like obviously there's specific things you can work on, but with dunking there's like very specific goals. Like if I'm at, stage 0, like my first goal is get a dunk, then it's get a two-hander, then it's get a two-hand reverse. Just like keep climbing up basically. And I think that can really help um just overall, like you can like kind of see like what the path is because generally, especially with us, like we're very into it, so we all kind of like know what the next thing is. And when you see someone that is similar to your level or even like below you and they're hitting something that you're not, kind of shows you like, okay, I can do this. I just need to work on it. So that's another really cool thing about what
No,
you
yeah,
said.
it's the fact that I feel like I can't name another sport where you can like objectively get better, where it's very easy to tell when you make
Yeah.
progress,
Except
which
like track
for
or
a
something.
person who thinks, yeah, for a person who thinks like me, that's important. I need like objective data. Like that's just how my mind works. And so
Mhm.
objectively, like number, like, I hit a 45-inch vert. My highest I'd ever hit was 44. Like I have the number, or like
Yeah,
I just
for
knee
sure.
spay. I've never been able to do that before. That's like objective
Yeah.
improvement. So it's nice.
Yeah. And kind of like that actually links back to what you said earlier really well. Like when you're like trying super hard at basketball and you're not performing well, it's like, what am I even doing? Like I'm tracking all this, like I'm doing all this, and for what? And with dunking, it's like, well, I'm tracking all this and I'm not doing this, so I'm just doing something wrong because
Yeah.
it's a very clear like step by step process to get good at dunking. And if
Mhm.
you're not getting better, there's just simply something that you're doing wrong. In basketball, not always something that you're doing wrong. Like you said, there's politics involved. Um, it just might not be even your fault, but it's just basketball. That's why I struggle with basketball sometimes. So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the other thing that people don't realize is that it's a team sport. Dunking is not a team sport in a way. Because like you have your factors like a coach, you have refs, you have other players, you have teammates, you have opponents, like you
exactly.
have all these limited factors that could possibly go wrong in any point of the game or practice or whatever. While as dunking, yeah, you have other people like dunking with you or whatever, but it's all on you. Like if you're not jumping good, it's not because somebody else is doing bad. It's because something in your training or you're just having a bad day, whatever, but it's solely on you. Like I said, you have these group sessions that usually gives the adrenaline up there a little bit more. Um, But at the end of the day, it's basically what you've been doing in the weight room or what you've been doing with dunking and practicing. So that's kind of like the difference as well. It's more independent, which I personally do like. I like the team aspect, but I mean, just being by yourself, kind of, um, you almost are competitive with yourself as well. So
For sure. No, I'm curious actually for you guys because like I've had this experience and it really bothers me. As dunkers, when people ask you or when you start talking about what sports you play, like I have so much trouble describing that I'm a dunker, but I don't play basketball. People don't understand that. People, people like I usually say like I take the best part of basketball, which is dunking. I call it slam dunking because people don't even know what dunking is. And I'll say I take the best part of basketball and like I isolate that and that's all I do now. And then I start talking about how like it's a real sport and like there are professionals and people just like can't understand it and it bothers me so much.
yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely have had that that happen before. I mean, I think it's coming around a little bit more now, but like people obviously, I think in my personal experience, but a lot of people know what dunking is, but they just don't get the concept of me just dunking but not playing basketball, like you said. It's like I haven't played basketball in probably 2 years now. Like I played like 2v2 or whatever at a gym before just for fun, but like a competitive 5v5 game I haven't played in like 2 years because I'm only doing dunk sessions. And like people are just kind of like confused um and like when I show them videos, they're just like what do you like? They're just like
Why are
dumbfounded
you
that I
even
can do
doing
this
that,
stuff.
bro?
Yeah, like a lot of them are like dumbfounded because I can actually do that. They're just looking at me and they're just like, yeah, you can't. They don't even think I can dunk, and then I do it under both, and just like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like I definitely see that quite a bit. Is just trying to explain to somebody what it is, even if they don't know. They're just like, oh, so you play basketball? No, not quite. Like
Yeah.
it's a little bit different, but
I think one reason that people are kind of like that is because they think that you're just born able to dunk. And that is still like a huge misconception in the sports world is that it's just like, oh, well, you're born and you can either dunk or you can't dunk. But it's just not true at all. Obviously, yeah, more people need to know that. But, as, the younger generation comes up, hopefully they will understand a little bit more since so much stuff is getting pushed out through social media right now. But yeah, the way that I do it is obviously, I mean, well, I still play basketball is the thing. So, but if someone's asking me like about specifically just dunking, um, or if for some reason, like if I like when I was in Utah, if like someone was to ask me like what I was doing there, I either if I'm not feeling patient, I just say I play basketball. That's just what I do. But if I'm like, feeling confident, I'll just basically say, kind of like what you said. I'm like, well, dunking, like imagine the dunk contest, like the NBA dunk contest. Like I practice for the NBA dunk contest, except not the NBA dunk contest, amateur dunk contest, basically, something like that. Or I also say something like, I just make videos for social media or something like, because then they can kind of understand that. Like if I'm at a gym or something and people are like, yo, why are you recording? And I like, you know, they don't really take the fact that like I'm trying to be a professional dunker. I just say like, oh, I just take these videos and document my progress on YouTube or something like that. And sometimes they understand because obviously you see those progress videos. But yeah, it is a difficult concept for some people to grasp for some reason. So,
Feel like the older the
oh,
person, the harder it is for them to grasp
oh
it too.
yeah, for sure. One time, in Utah, my grandparents came to the dunk show and they were just like, what is going on? Like, why are they just I don't really know what they expected, but yeah, it's funny.
yeah. So kind of going off of that with dunking and stuff, like with dunk camp, like obviously we kind of talked about your experience, but um, like what were your goals going into dunk camp? And then like what were your first impressions when you first got there? Like to the actual um like Jordan High School and everything like that.
Yeah. I had really a rough travel from LA to Utah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I almost didn't make it actually.
I
Um,
did hear about this, yeah.
did not think I was gonna be there. Luckily everything worked out the way it was supposed to. So I got there, you know, it was rough, didn't sleep very much. Got there the first morning, and once everybody started dunking, it was just such a vibe. Like just everybody like-minded people. I don't know, like there's what, 70 athletes there or something, and
Pretty
then there's
much, yeah.
Something,
pros.
yeah.
Plus the pros, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I always dunk alone too. I don't have any friends who can dunk here. So I dunk alone. There's no adrenaline. So being in a gym with people who all are like-minded from like various levels ranging from trying to get their first dunk to the highest jumper on the planet. Like that's insane. And I just wasn't used to that. So it was super cool, super fun. I was a little overwhelmed. Like I didn't know what hoop to dunk on. It was just a lot. I didn't know anybody, but it was super fun that first day getting that dunk session in, and then I didn't jump the next 2 days to make sure I was gonna be cool. I know if I had jumped either of those 2 days, the middle 2 days, I would have not been able to compete in the contest. And so I was, you know, when I went there, one of my goals was just in a sense to like make a name for myself. Like people didn't really know me. And so I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to make a good impression. And so I was, you know, the best place to do that would be the dunk contest. And so I was trying to, day one was like, you know, repping stuff out, get ready, and then day four was like, let's kill it in the dunk contest. And you know, competing in that was so fun. It was my second dunk contest. My first one was back in October at my college, actually. They did a dunk contest at like it was like a little rally event, like introducing all the student athletes,
Hmm.
specifically the basketball team. It was the dumbest dunk contest I've ever seen in my life. They had us in the crowd for 2 hours sitting down, and then randomly, we didn't know when this was going to be. I didn't tell us anything. They're like, okay, attention, high flyers, we're doing a dunk contest. And they called the 4 people down that they asked to compete. I was one of them, obviously. Call us down, compete. No warm up, zero warm up. I didn't know what time it was going to start, so I couldn't even warm up on my own. Um, it it was
Bro.
really like it was when I say I jumped low, like I'm talking my vert went down to like 37 inches maybe. My first dunk was like I was trying to do a basic 360. I got rim stuff 3 times in a row. That was it. Like I couldn't do anything. I have videos. I'm never gonna ever release them ever. But I have the videos and it's embarrassing. And so to like this for me, this is a chance to redeem myself at dunk camp. I was like, hey, I haven't done anything since in front of a crowd. Like I need this to like be sane. And so, you know, I was definitely mentally prepared for that. And I was satisfied with how I jumped at the contest. So
Yeah, I think that's definitely
Or a
one thing that
comeback.
people like set up. What was that? What were you saying?
Made a or a comeback.
Oh, but what I was saying is
Sure.
just like when people like do like dunk contests like that, a lot of them don't actually know what they're doing. Like if they're like local ones, so it's like you just are not going to perform well because again, like you didn't have a warm up at all. They just called you down. They expect you to just jump out of the gym with nothing. So it's like obviously with dunk camp, they made sure that we warmed up. They made sure that they're just like, yep, get your warm ups in, get your jumps in. We're gonna start this time, whatever. Um, but that's definitely something I've heard from other people is like when local people set it up, like it's like the worst rant thing ever. Which makes sense because a lot of them don't know how hard like making a dunk contest is, like
yeah,
timing wise and everything like that. So,
I think
but
it's I think it's kind of disrespectful to the sport too, because you would never have a basketball game go on and you know have the players show up and just throw them on the court and say play. You would never do that in
yeah,
any sport. Um, and so to do it in dunking is crazy, especially for a sport where it's like
Yeah,
dunking, like your outputs are so high, you're expected to
exactly.
get 40 to 50 inches off the floor. So to say like no warm up is crazy. And then that one
I think
contest had a it had a weird scoring system because there was no judges. It was based on the crowd. But my competition,
I just
this
did one of those too.
this was the craziest thing though. My competition was a frat guy whose entire frat was there to make noise for him. One of the guys on the basketball team, this was a basketball rally. and a baseball player whose entire baseball team was there. So I was the only one who wasn't affiliated with any group. So it was it was I was the first one out. I wasn't the only one who missed dunks. There was one guy who missed basic dunks, but his baseball team was there. So, they cheered loud enough to make him move on. It was just
Yeah,
everything was bad. Like there was nothing good about that contest. So dunk
I
camp was
think
for my chance to redeem myself.
yeah. I think it goes back to like kind of what we said about um just people not understanding like it as a sport and like especially it as like a, I can wake up and do this. Like most people can't unless they're super tall or they're just like insanely gifted. So I mean, you can't entirely blame them, I guess, but yeah, it needs to be common knowledge that you can't, you know, have peak human performance with zero preparation. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I kind of go along with that, like, because I work at a gym, so I have a lot of little kids that like know that I'm a dunker and stuff like that. And, like they
Oh yeah.
sometimes see me dunk,
Oh yeah.
and then so like it was during the winter or whatever, and this is like probably like the peak time people were asking. They're just I walk in for my cold cards like probably like 10 degrees outside, right? And I'm in like a jacket. I just get in there with my backpacks on. They're like, "Can you do a dunk for me? I'm 10 feet." I'm like, bro. First of all, I'm not jumping today. Second off, I need a warm up. Like they just think I can just go do like I probably could if I really tried, but like I'm probably gonna hurt myself. But it's like they don't realize that we do such a like designated warm up. We don't do 100% jumps right when we get on the court. We build up to 100% so we don't hurt ourselves because like you said,
Yeah.
the outputs are insane. It's just like people
Yeah.
don't understand that we actually have designated jump sessions. We don't just go and dunk whenever we
That's what I was
want.
just gonna say.
It's
Yeah, I
like,
think I think the hardest thing for people that they don't understand is those designated jump days. Like when I was like earlier this year, maybe it was last year, like during one of my basketball seasons, someone asked, like one of my teammates or somebody asked me, like, yo, can you go do a dunk right now? And I was like, well, I probably could, but I actually only jump on Saturdays. And they were like, what do you mean you only jump on Saturday? Like they thought I was joking because it does kind of sound stupid when you like think about it as like a basketball player, but it's just like people like ask me to dunk like at every time I play basketball, they ask me to dunk, and I'm just like, I can definitely dunk right now, but you're not going to see an East Bay. Like I'll just do a one hander, if that. And people are like, I think it kind of makes them like doubt that like I can actually even like do cool dunks. And I'm like,
yeah,
bro, like I don't think you understand. Like my whole week leads up to me jumping high on Saturday, and I can't just like jump. I mean, sometimes I do randomly jump high on like a random Tuesday or something, but a majority of the time, I can't do anything on those days, and they really just don't understand the dedicated jump days.
yeah,
But yeah, there's so many
yeah,
things that people just don't understand yet. But
No, yeah,
for real.
misunderstood sport. I'm
It
always
is. I mean, it's hard to explain though
it's
too.
just
Like
treated
how
as a
we said,
halftime show. That's it.
yes, literally.
It's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, obviously Dunk Camp kind of talked about it a bit. I watched some of the contests. I low rim for a little bit of it because I'm an idiot and I jump way too much at camp. But I know I saw you hit in East Bay. Um, but what other dunks did you hit during that contest?
Yeah. For me, one dunk that's just become super easy. Even on my worst days, I'll punch it. Is the 180 reverse windmill. Um, so that I knew was a lock, so I opened with that. Um, then I saw a bunch of guys just throwing it up and punching like a basic dunk. And I was like, okay, I feel like I can do that and potentially even do it better. So my second dunk, I just threw a lob and just figured I'd go up and punch it. Based on the scoring system, I knew they'd like power too. So I threw a lob and punched it. I actually didn't even jump very well. It was not a good jump. So then my third dunk, I was trying to figure out what to do. And I wanted to do some sort of East Bay variation, but I wanted, like we've talked about a million times, my hands aren't like where I want them to be. So I just took one variable out and I had someone hold it for me. So I didn't have to worry about the lob, potentially getting a bad lob. So I set him up and then I e-spade. The jump felt terrible in the air. I actually thought I was gonna get rim stuffed. It did not feel like a good jump, but adrenaline does crazy things. And so punched that, and then in the
My first
finals,
try.
That was first try, yeah. It was,
Wow.
yeah.
Isn't that
That
your
one,
only your second time doing out the hand too?
no. So yeah, out the hand, yeah. John kept saying it was my second time East Baying, which is not true. But out the hand, I did that for my first East Bay ever, and then I moved to just doing off lobs. Um, but yeah, that was my second time out the hand. And then in the finals, I did
360 windmill.
well, so no, I threw up the first one. I threw it up for a self lob, and I was gonna try to windmill it because sometimes, every once in a while, I'll get a ridiculously high jump and a full extension windmill and just punch it. And I was hoping that would, the timing would work in the contest, and it didn't. And so I missed the first two. Or the first time I did it, it was a terrible lob. I jumped anyways, so I tried to pump it. It was bad, missed that. Then tried the windmill, bad jump, missed that. And then the last time, another bad lob. So I just caught it, brought it all the way down, and then reversed it and hung on the rim. And it was a pretty clean finish. So it was probably a decent score. But then judging off the other guys in the finals, what they did, I knew I kind of had to show out um, if I was going to win. So I decided to try a 360 windmill, which for me, I can't windmill unless it's full extension. I don't know why I can't do like a half windmill. So that makes hitting 360 windmills really tough because I try to fully extend. Um, and so I've only hit that. I hit that once on like a 9-10 hoop where I punched it, and then once on a not on a 10-foot hoop where it kind of rattled in. So I kind of took a risk with that one, but I figured if I wanted to win, I needed to like show out.
Yeah.
And, that last attempt back rimmed, it was close, but it didn't make.
Yeah, for sure. I think I saw a video of you East Bang different time at camp. Was that day four as well, or
That was day one, actually.
that was day one?
That was day one. I just threw it up. East Bays are start. I'm starting to get to the point where East Bays are getting easier for me.
Yeah, for
If I feel
sure.
like if I have a good lob, it's pretty automatic at this point. It's just I struggle with throwing a good lob. And so that just
Yeah.
kind of happened on the first day. I kind of forgot about it actually. And then I was looking through after dunk camp, I was looking through all the dunks I hit on day one, and I was like, oh, I completely did not remember this. So
Yeah, it's crazy. So I mean, obviously you tested 45. You're getting consistent with East Bays. You got quite a few dunks now that are just, locked in. So what are some of like your goals? Well, do you plan to go to camp next year, I should say?
100%. I'm bringing my best
Okay.
friend. It's super fun, bro. Gotta
Nice,
go.
bro.
Yeah.
For sure. So what would you say your goals are before camp or at camp next year? And then what are some of your goals for just long term?
Yeah. I think, for next year, like I said, I wanna jump higher. I'm obsessed with jumping higher. I like realistically, I don't know if this is in the cards genetically, but I want to get close to 50. Um, I've such a high training age that I don't know how much higher I can get, but like I'm gonna try. So I think I'm gonna put a pause for the next year, or not a pause, but I'm gonna slow down the amount of emphasis on increasing my vertical. Maybe try to tack on another inch in the next year, but really hammer away at technique and try to get really good and really consistent.
I like it.
And so that's the next year for me is that. And then, long
Do you
term
have any specific goals, like dunk wise?
dunks. I want to East Bay almost automatically. Like I want to hit that every time. I've never hit that off the dribble, so I want to hit that off the dribble and be able to do it pretty consistently by next camp. Off a lob, I want to be able to catch the bad lobs, the ones that are like over my head, and still put them through and punch it. Um, Windmilling off the dribble for me is tough because I'm a left-right jumper with a super steep block foot. And so my body's very turned. It's kind of like Kilgannon, actually. It's very turned. And so I'm right-handed. So bringing it across my body is a little tough. So I want to get better with the left at all dunks, but specifically windmills. I've never hit a windmill with my left off a lob. I've never even tried it actually. Um, and so I want to get better with the left windmill specifically. I want to hit it behind the back. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to approach that because of the way I jump, being right-handed too. I'll probably have to dunk with my left hand, which will be it's a work in progress right now. It'll be tough. But hammer away at that. And then, I mean, I just want to see how good I can get. I don't know. I'll kind of keep like checking things off the list, but I'm just gonna do everything I can to get as good as possible and as consistent as possible.
Same, bro.
Yeah. So kind of going back with dunk camp. So obviously you probably learned a lot. Um, but obviously we talked about a bunch of your 10-foot stuff. But do you plan on doing any type of low rim like from learning stuff at camp, or like how are you going about like your technique wise, like for the future?
Yeah. I think so. Definitely, I want a low rim, but I want like sub-maximal low rims. Like I know some people go to low rims and still jump as hard as they can and try to hit crazy dunks. I wanna I wanna introduce low rim sessions specifically. I was talking about like the different phases of training I have. In that phase where I turn down all the other qualities just to a maintenance and I'm dunking a lot. I wanna throw in low rimming there specifically and have the jumps be sub-maximal, closer to like 60% effort, so I can work on hand speed. And then also not, just tear away at my knees
Yeah.
because I have jumper's knee and it does flare up pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, um, I don't know if they talked about it a lot at camp this year, but they definitely talked about it quite a bit at camp last year. The problem with like sub-maximal jumping and trying to get better at hand speed at the same time is you can develop bad habits pretty easily, just
Yeah,
from
I
like
was
the
gonna say
pump and
that.
stuff. So I mean, if you're like just to say, or you're trying to get better at off dribble East Bay or something like that, doing it sub-maximally could actually like hurt your like actual off dribble East Bay technique because
Mhm.
you're like not pumping the same and just not getting like the same jump. So I would say if I were you over the next year, if your body allows you to, obviously, I would try to throw in a session every now and then, like in the middle of the week, and just jump at like even like 80% is decent. But obviously that's pretty hard still. So if your body allows you, I'd do that. Or to be honest, like I know a lot of people, like we just talked to Hiram yesterday and he was talking about how, or not yesterday, maybe it was yesterday. He was talking about how, he like has a hard time like just not doing a 10-foot session on his like dedicated jump day and
Yeah,
just like committing to doing it on low rims. But I would say even if you're just dunking on like 9.7 or something, like that's still gonna be super beneficial. So yeah, I mean definitely hammer away at hand speed, but definitely got to make sure that you're doing pretty hard jumps because otherwise you can develop some bad habits from it.
yeah. No, that makes sense. A lot of
Yes.
the drills Kilgannon was taking us through too. That stuff's not gonna, there's no impact. I'm not leaving the floor. The hand speed drills and stuff. I think I should
For
definitely be
sure, yeah.
tossing that stuff in as
Yeah,
much as I
because
can.
I was gonna say, if I were you, like I literally just did this today. I lower the rim to where I can basically get like my wrist like right here above the rim. So I
Without jumping.
basically can just go on my tippy toes, and then that you're still working on your full speed hand speed, but you're not jumping at all. So if you don't want to do like if you're trying to do like the 60%, I wouldn't do that. I would rather you do like the hand speed stuff where you're not jumping at all, where you can still work on your hand speed at 100% without jumping, because then you're not blowing out your knees or you're getting hurt that way, but you're still getting the full speed effort of actually getting the dunk in. Because I mean, you could, if you don't have like an accessible low rim like that, you could also do it on a wall. That's another thing. But I personally just like it on a low rim because I actually get the actual thing of dunking in it as well, so I can actually
Yeah.
see it go in the rim as well. Um, and then if you're struggling, not struggling, but if you're like you want something a little bit harder with that as well, you can get a 3 pound ball and you can start doing weighted hand speed stuff like that as well. And that'll actually also um, expose bad habits as well, because with the weighted ball, you have to have more control with it. So like for my
Really.
behind the backs, I was really like I was like kind of like bringing it up like this instead of getting underneath it, and I started using weighted ball, and I wasn't making any BTBs, and I figured that out because the ball would just slip out because it's weighted. You can kind of get away with it because the ball's a little lighter. So like if you want to do that as well, that's also an option. But I would say really hammer away on some hand speed without actually jumping, and then like the drills that Kilgannon showed with just like putting around your head, run your waist, or the hide and seek stuff. Like those all help as well. But if you really want like the actual like sensation of dunking, still, I would say going on really low rim like that.
For sure. No, I've messed around with that a little bit. Definitely got to add more back in because it's fun too. It's fun too. Like you said,
Yeah.
that sensation of dunking too is just different than doing it just with a ball. So I definitely agree. I should definitely be adding that in the next year.
And
Yeah,
that's the
for
other thing
sure.
with that is that you can get more ideas off of that as well. Like I'll literally just go out there and just mess around. Like I won't even like have designated like practicing. I'll literally just go up there, throw it off the backboard, and do a trick, and just out of my head, just like add something, or just randomly like bounce it off the backboard, dunk it, or whatever it is. It just you get ideas for new dunks, and then just basically just messing around while still gaining that hand speed. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think we got to get back to just some few of your long-term goals and then wrap it up here. But yeah,
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean long term, like I said, I don't know how high I'll be able to jump. I don't know what's in the cards for me, but I want to find out. So, if I can touch 50, that'd be amazing. We'll find out down the line. I'm only 23, so I have time. Um, and then, I want to compete professionally. That's another major goal. I was hoping that would happen this year at the dunk camp from winning that contest, and it didn't, but hopefully they have that opportunity next year too. That's something I think that's a good goal to look forward to and, like, kind of motivate throughout the year. It's crazy opportunity that they put that together.
yeah, it's very
Um,
crazy.
but yeah, I mean, I want to compete. I want to compete professionally, and just see how good I can get. Really, just if I can, I want to combine the skill with being an elite jumper and see where that takes me. That's one of the main goals. I think I want to take what I've learned and the mistakes that I've made. I want to help people. That's one of my biggest goals. And so, but I'd say those few things are the top of the list for me.
Love it, bro. Exciting to see. Can't wait to see you do all that, obviously, but really appreciate you coming on. Obviously, appreciate Hunter doing co-host again. Yeah, if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, give a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify. Jordan, where can they find you on social media?
JP.dunks on Instagram and TikTok.
Sir, very appreciate it again. See you guys in the next one. So.